Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here, for coming out, and especially thank you to Amy Porter, who is here today with Haynes Flutes. I had the privilege of studying with Professor Porter, so it's always a treat to get to see her and hear her. So without further ado, we will turn it over to Professor Porter. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody here and out there. It's so great to be back in New York. And I thought I'd bring you a little bit of J.S. Bach. I learned from reading Jean-Pierre Rampal's autobiography that if you program Bach or Mozart on your recital, people will come and people will love it. They will say that Mozart and Bach was the reason they came. So this is from my edition of the Bach Cello Suites. This is a prelude I have not performed in public before, but I thought I'd bring it out on rotation. This is one of the suites in which one reviewer said it sounds like it was written for the flute. So I'm very excited to bring you the prelude to the fourth cello suite in E-flat major. Did you want me to play one other thing? Okay, before we chat? Okay. Great. Well, I have a very good friend, I'm sure. She's your very good friend, too. Her name is Allison Loggins Ho. Yay! And she's out there on Facebook Live today. Couldn't be here because it's her son's birthday. So I just want to play this for Allison since I'm in New York. This is Homeland, written this year, 2018, for the Myrna Brown competition. And Allison has some program notes in the beginning of the piece. And as I started practicing this piece, I asked her permission to be able to read her notes while I'm playing the piece at very opportune times throughout the piece. So she said yes. So this is Homeland by my friend Allison Loggins. Oh. Is home really home? Is home really home when you're forced to leave your country in order to survive? Is home really home when the people of your country are completely divided? Is home really home when your country has been completely destroyed by a natural disaster? A human disaster? Is home still home? Everyone to learn this piece. Fantastic piece.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So we're just going to do a bit of a reshuffling.
Yes,
so
let's
just
reshuffle.
1 second. That was awesome. Face of the missing water. Good. Give me a hand with that. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Back in New York.
Yeah.
Home. Away from home.
Okay. All right. I think we're all good to go. Thank you everybody for coming today and being here for Amy's performance and for our little Q&A. We're going to chat, and I have some questions that I'm dying to ask her and to learn more about her. But at the end, there'll be an opening for any questions. So do your brainstorming now. Start to think of anything that you just need to know, and you can ask your questions at the end. So thank you, Amy, so much for joining us today. It's a real pleasure. Before we delve into everything flute related, I actually want to talk about trumpet, surprisingly.
Yay.
I don't know if everyone knows, but you were playing trumpet for a while in addition to flute.
Correct.
And, I think everybody kind of agrees that we're all just musicians and we kind of choose what we want our voice to be, and that can be, if that is flute or maybe another instrument or voice. How did you decide to ultimately go with flute and kind of leave the trumpet behind?
That's a great question. I think I had the best father in the world who actually gave me the choice. So I was 9 when I started the flute. I was probably singing. I know I was singing before I spoke. And my father was an amateur pianist. He played in the Navy in the war. So he was, my parents were very musical. So I think my voice is actually just music. So it doesn't matter what I'm playing. Music is better than speaking for me. I speak music better than English, right? So when my brother came and played the trumpet out of the U.S. Army, he played Alfie for my mother one summer, and I thought, okay, well that has 3 keys, and my flute has a lot more keys. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try that. And I said, and I have perfect pitch, which made it very simple. So I said, may I please try your trumpet? And he gave it to me. And he was very upset when I came back out in the living room and played Alfie for my mother. The same piece he had just played for my mother. So then I thought trumpet was way more fun than the flute and the band. And I went to a very small school which had a band of probably 15. So I decided I'm going to play the trumpet. And my parents gave me a trumpet when I was 10. So I studied with the band director on the trumpet, and then I had this very important flute teacher in Delaware, and then I went to Philadelphia, so it became even more stressful at the level I was playing on the flute. I was in the youth orchestra of Greater Philadelphia, and here I was, a closet trumpet player. So one very rainy night, it was Rittenhouse Square in Philly, and I had just come out of a lesson, and I sat in the car, and my father said, how did it go? And I said, I had a very bad tone. And I almost had to confess that I played the trumpet. But I couldn't tell her, he said, well, did you play jazz at 4 p.m.? And I said, yes, I played jazz. It wasn't good, So, he said, well, then you'll have to make a choice. And I'll never forget looking out of the car thinking, well, Dad, there's no choice, but how nice of you to give me one. There was no choice. So I always think that I am a flutist in a trumpet player's body, or am I a trumpet player in a flute player's body? I'm not sure. But I have a little brass player in me.
Is there anything that you translate?
Well, I do, very much so, yes. The close lips, the lips together sometimes for the low register, definitely. You know, there's a bit of I always think the lips are just the receivers of everything. It's the cave entrance, I call. The lips don't really need to produce anything. It's the air before them, right? So if the lips are like a little bit like the trumpet, where they're a little supple, but they're also engaged, that's the perfect flute embouchure as well. So I have a great time on April Fool's concerts, and I have a great time at Halloween when everybody asks, you know, in Michigan we have a tradition every few years of an April Fool's concert where all the faculty are encouraged to play the instruments they used to play, and it is just the most hysterical thing. And the other rule is you're not allowed to practice.
Oh, wow.
And the other story I'll tell you about the trumpet was that I met the former professor emeritus at Oberlin of trumpet. He's very famous. And I said, I used to play the trumpet. And I said, I was very good because I was principal trumpet of Delaware All-State Band in this big. Yeah. In the same year, I was principal flute of the Delaware All-State Orchestra. And so I told this Oberlin professor, I'm really good. He said, of course you're good. Every trumpet player thinks they're good.
Typical.
Not every flute player.
Right,
so I'll say I was a great trumpet player. Flute, not so much. Really had to work at it. But I think I just encourage, I bring this talk into the methods and the music education classes every April. And all the students are encouraged to encourage the young people to play many instruments and not just one.
And keep their doors open too.
Yes, right? And sing, sing, sing.
Yeah.
Because that's all we do in the instrument is sing.
And you were speaking about your father. You had a really big support system with your parents.
Yes.
You lost them when you were young.
Yes.
What was that like then, learning to support yourself and kind of be your own champion?
You know, I think you're your own champion anyway, if you have parents that are super supportive. She told me I could be president one day, and I actually was, of 2 flute clubs. She told me I could play in the Boston Symphony, and I did for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
She told me, so if you're telling your child that they could do anything and they are the best, they're going to walk out of the house saying, I think I could be the best. Now, of course, there was, you know, from age 14 to 24, you're going through this incredible, horrific, you know, metamorphosis of who you are and learning who you are. And am I going to play this thing for a living? Am I, you know, do I go into music? And I think it's really important to just keep your head down and keep doing it and just believe in yourself, so that if your parents aren't around, and they lost them when I was 26. And I actually was on stage performing in Tokyo, in Japan, playing Mozart when my mother passed away. I did the math on the flight home with the hours and the delays and everything, and I figured I'd like to keep it like that. I'd like to think that I was doing exactly what she wanted me to do when she passed away. So I went through this feeling of, you know, the power from them got even stronger. I have to say. The fact that they were gone made it even more powerful that I could do this, and okay, Mom, you know, I'd look up and go, okay, you're right, you know, it's working. So I think if you can instill early on that your child can do anything, that I'm living example.
And even you had those moments of doubting yourself, you're saying. So those days when you don't know if you're gonna, you know, keep up with the flute and pursue it as a career.
Well, not so much that.
Degree.
No. No, when I was 12, I looked at the math board, and I was like, okay, that's hard. And I had a pencil in my hand. I was like, this is easy, and I'm going to do this.
Right.
So I knew I was going to be a flutist from age 12, and no one was going to tell me I couldn't. Now, how much of the flute I was going to go forward with, how much of the world I was going to be able to see, and how many lives I would be able to touch was unknown, and I don't think we can ever know. As they say, put a flashlight on your head, and then it beams out, and that's about as much as we can see. So.
And you got your Atlanta position very young, too, and you kind of dabbled with that for a while and discovered that wasn't the right path.
Yes, 2 weeks after my mother passed away, they told me I won the job. So I was like, well, well, I'm making hardly any money in New York City, and now somebody's offering me money. And at the time, Ms. Baxtresser was kind of starting to encourage me to, maybe I could sub in the Philharmonic. You know, some of the Juilliard students get to do that sometimes. And right when the call came, Christina Smith and I they had 2 openings at the time, and I said, can I have concertos? Because I really loved what I just did for you, communicated and bringing music that I love. The orchestra repertoire is amazing. It's just not my kind of amazing.
Right.
I love to hear the random trombone sonata and the horn sonatas, and I love to be, scholarly about music. So my heart wasn't singing, and I was just the luckiest human, really, to have that job. But I thought one day, I wonder if I could do another competition. And that same day, Muramatsu had sent me the Kobe flyer, and it literally fell on the floor. And I reached up and I thought, oh, maybe I could do this. It's in September, though. I'm not sure. It's in August, excuse me. And I asked the Atlanta Symphony if I could leave, and they said no. And then I asked again. I always say please, and they said no. And then I asked a third time, and they said no. And then the phone rang one day, and they said, well, we've changed our mind. Okay, so I quickly took what, when your parents pass away, you can take what they've given you and do something with it. So I brought my pianist. I paid for her hotel. I paid for everything. I made this huge investment of going to Kobe. And it paid off beautifully. So I think I basically spent what I made. But that's what I encourage you all to do. If you do NFA, you're going to have to, the prize is $2,000. You're going to have to spend $2,000 to make $2,000. You don't always, go into it thinking that the purse is everything. You have to invest. Like, I brought the pianist, right? And I knew what I was doing. In fact, in the orchestra, I was so nervous. So in the Brahms symphonies, I would wrap my leg around the chair and get stressed and not breathe. But in a concerto, I'm in control of my product. It's me with this amazing conductor, and it's me with these amazing people, and I know what they do because I've sat there. So I think for me, leaving the orchestra was a decision from my heart. Like you said, I followed my heart, and it was just because, look, I mean, when your parents pass away, it's good 3 years before you even wake up and know what's happening. And so then that was Kobe, and then I came back and sat in the chair for another 6 years so, thinking, okay, I've just won this big prize and nothing's happening. So one day, a very, very smart man named Peter Whitty said to me, do you know that Michigan has an opening? And I said, well, why would I want that? And he said, well, don't you want to get back to a solo career? Oh, well, yes. So some of your friends actually listen when you're talking about yourself. Yeah. So I entered the search, and it was just the most magical audition and just the most magical relationship. I played Enesco, Telemon, Bozza, Image, all the pieces that people learn in college. I didn't come in and play a premiere and all these things. So I was just so elated to move forward, and that was 19 years ago.
Yeah, approaching 20 almost.
Approaching 20. Yeah, they don't really look at you until 30 years in academia.
Right.
20.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
How do you think your teaching's developed over that time span? I mean, it is a long time to find yourself as a teacher and to grapple with, juggling life and making it all work.
Life and what life brings you.
Yeah.
Tragedies and joys. And your students live it all with you. I think what I've discovered in my time, I had to tell them that this is going to be a relationship where I'm not your mother and I'm not your best friend. And once that was laid down around year 2, I think, everybody started coming, because when you get a new teacher, they're going to test you.
Right.
Not everybody's going to want to study with you. At the time, there were several teachers. So I put it down to one teacher by the time I came in my second year, and I said if somebody's going to play the flute, it's going to be kind of in this tradition of the Philadelphia woodwind method. Plus, it's the Juilliard education in my room, because I didn't go to Michigan, and I couldn't have gone to Michigan. It's very amazing place. You have to do everything, and my students do everything. So I think the biggest way my teaching has evolved is that I go with the student. I follow them. I follow them in their emotional lives to the point where I'm not their mother and not their best friend. I follow them with them in their journey of, am I going to play music? And I love to introduce things like the Bachelor of Musical Arts degree to people. They start smiling and breathing. I mean, I don't have to do this and get up in front of people, because some people don't want to get up in front of people. So I have students who I tailor make a career or an education for, and hopefully a means for a career. So if I know that you like administration, we're going to talk about that. If I know you like orchestra, we're going to talk about that. So I'm really asking them to tell me everything. Keep me abreast of what it is your passions are and any doubts.
And what is it that you look for in a new recruit? Because your studio, I think, by now has certainly over the years gained a reputation of being very difficult to get into. So what is it that kind of draws you to a particular candidate?
I always say I can't make you a nice person, but I can make you a great flutist. So if you're a nice person, that really helps. And I don't know if you've met anyone from my studio, but they're really nice people. So I think it's been a bit of a decision process for me to take the people that are super nice and super fun, and we get along great, and I think I'll wake up in the morning wanting to be with you, and so I'll actually say in the audition, I like you. And last year, my student Justine said, I like you too. And I was like, boom, and in the audition process, I write down, that we had this moment, and I coach in the audition. It's not just 15 minutes of me just staring at you or eating yogurt or whatever, Is
that important to kind of see how people take feedback as well?
Yeah, and how I work with you.
Yeah.
You have. So I say that about eating yogurt because in my Curtis audition, I was 17, and it got down to me and another boy, and they have finals, and the finals kept going on, me and the other boy, me and the other boy, me and the other boy. It got so bad that Julius Baker got really hungry, and they ordered him barbecue chicken.
Oh,
and my British mother, I'd never smelled barbecue chicken. She never made barbecue. So that made me miss my B flat thumb key on my Mendelssohn Scherzo. And you saw me, looked up, we're done. I was not at Curtis.
Yeah.
I went to Juilliard because of the barbecue chicken smell. But,
are you able to enjoy barbecue chicken today?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think in my auditions, I try to understand where I was. I do give sight reading though, which is super telling, very telling. And it's the final movement of the 12th Fantasia of Telemann.
Well, now you're telling everybody.
No. The people probably won't.
Yeah.
It's okay. Nobody really realizes it either. But so I think it's. I hear that it's hard to get into, and people say, if I've heard that apparently I have to know you, but as many will attest, I don't have to know you, right? People say I've never met her in my life, and I got in. But really, it was because of the biggest factor is that you've shown me that you are a very, compassionate and you human being, and that you don't have a knife in your back pocket. And I can see the knife. I can see the knife in your eyes. So I'm just really all about the human.
And
I take people.
That's a really holistic approach to playing the flute, which is kind of your thing as well. You're really into wellness and fitness. Am I right in that? Yeah. So how do you think that helps your flute playing, and do you encourage your students to kind of follow the same path?
Yes, absolutely. It's a 20 minutes on a treadmill is the minimum for them. Some of them have never been on a treadmill, so and then quite often people will think that lifting something is going to hurt me. That is the other myth. So there's a lot of myths out there, but I think the heart is a muscle that really needs to be worked, and it's a muscle that is the psoas actually causes fight or flight response. So if you know how to run or you know how to lift a weight, you know how to perform. It's the same thing. It's the same muscles. My trainer has trained Olympic ice skaters and hockey players. So I do some pretty crazy stuff. I'll be in the middle of something screaming, "Is this a hockey thing?" And he'll say yes. But it's good for you. So I actually have had former doctoral students come with me. This year I had 2 master's students come with me to the training, just because they can see how a woman 20 years older than 30, years older than they are can also stay fit. And it's, for me, it's pretty much vanity, because I just want to keep, wearing nice dresses and look good on stage, and you look good on because the camera will put 10 pounds on you. So I was told by a stylist 10 years ago, oh, by the way, lose 25 pounds. And I said, okay. And a lot of people would say, what? You didn't say, take a hike. No, I said, yes, ma'am. And I did. And it changed my life for the better. I feel like I'm aging backwards,
You're talking about getting to wear the fancy dresses. There's a lot of videos of you on YouTube, too, wearing your big ball gowns
I
on
know.
stage.
They're still around. I might sell them on eBay.
Is it ever distracting when you play to have, like, I don't know, so for some people they want to be very minimal and
so I
comfort.
don't choose my gowns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have a stylist. So that green dress on for Hue Fantasy and the Hello Kitty dress and all the birds, that's not me.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a woman. I've had a couple, but at first was Megan, and she'd say, meet me at Nordstrom's tomorrow at 10. So I would walk into Nordstrom's, and all the ladies at Nordstrom's would part. I'd be like, she's here, the client is here. Because my stylist had gone the day before and pulled all the gowns. And I was just a body. I would just stand there, and she'd be like, "Oh my God, this is so great!" And I'd say, "But
you need
I have to breathe." Yeah. And so I'm begging my stylist now. I want to eat a pork chop. I tell her in this dress. So the dresses are chosen by them to a couple different reasons. I'm not supposed to look like I'm dated. Like you could now, probably Hue Fantasy now you go, that was 18 years ago, but no, to look like you're wearing a trendy piece. You want to look a little more classic on stage.
Timeless. Yeah.
And also, I am not a stylist. I don't know. So I trust people who do know. And for instance, right now, if I have a ponytail in a concert, I kind of get, she says, is that a pony? I said, well, I didn't have, right? I just borrowed this. I forgot my hair bag. So there are these women that, like, okay, so they help me, they give me great advice on the body type, the hair, what to do with the hair, anything from the nails to the accessories. It's just this is Larry and this is Amy. So it's,
and the ultimate accessory is in your lap, right? The beautiful Hanes flute.
Yes. I don't know if everybody knew, but I was a Muramatsu player for 36 years. 36 years from when I was 12. So that fateful day when I was 12 and I decided to be a professional flutist, Murray Panitz was selling his flute. So we got Murray Panitz's flute, and I don't know where it is anymore. And then I had a 9K with silver keys that won me all my gigs. And then I had a 14K for a few years. And then, you know what? I decided I wanted a flute to teach me something new. Because I was just practicing and everything was great. And so I was like, okay. Either I get out the trumpet or I have a conversation with Alan Weiss. And so I was in England and I had a great conversation with Alan Weiss because I didn't know Alan Weiss, and I needed to talk to somebody who didn't know me. I didn't know, and they weren't gonna, lead me down a path that they should think I'm on because they know me. So we talked for 2 years, and then they took the specs that I wanted. I went for an offset G because I have injured my hands, this hand 3 times on a dog walk. Just a commercial, walk your dog shouldn't walk you. So I went for an offset G when I had an inline, I went for a different cut of head because I had the other kind of cut, I wanted the P cut for Porter, but it just didn't work out so then. But so I had this amazing, so they put together this, I think it was the second one they made, white gold, 14K rose gold keys, and an N cut. So it's engraved. I went all out for the engraving. Yeah. So this is my last flute, and I adore it. It's a new voice for me. I feel like I sound different. So the Bach cello suites were all played on the Muramatsu, And while I was in the recording session in Hill Auditorium, the box arrived with the Haynes in it. And so my whole crew said, Amy, are you going to open that box? And I said, no. No. So I finished the Bach Cello Suites recording. I went home, we popped the champagne, I opened the one flute with the 2 head joints, and I proceeded to film the G major cello suite prelude for Finley twice, once on one head joint and once on another head joint. And we picked that day in the kitchen. And it was a wonderful journey. And, it wasn't like a divorce, really, because I have been with that family, Muramatsu family, for 36 years. They've known me since I was an infant, basically, and I love them and they love me. And I called them and said, this is a normal question that any professional would want. What can a new instrument teach me? So we just are still madly in love, and I still direct my students to one of 3 major instruments, and I adore the Muramatsu and the Haynes. So. And Mr. Muramatsu had come over to Boston to ask Mr. Haynes about his flutes back in the day. So, yeah, that's my story.
Are there any questions that anybody has for Amy? I gave you guys plenty of time to think about it. No one brainstormed anything? Nothing. What about, no? Kelly?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your chamber music career? Because I know you play with the trio vibrato.
I do.
And how did that happen? Like, how did you meet these people? A little bit about that.
So first, I want to tell you that I made my Carnegie debut with a guitarist. We were flute and guitar. His name is Professor Dr. Tom Garcia. He's at University of Miami in Ohio. And but at the time he played tuba at Juilliard, so we were a perfect match. The tuba and the trumpet player, flute guitar, and we were sent out by Lincoln Center. So we were the pre-AJC, I think it's called, and we would go all out and play in all the schools and wonderful kind of outreach. And then we added some strings for my debut, and we did the Schubert Guitar Quartet. And then from there, I was a member of the Atlanta Winds. We founded the Atlanta Winds. So chamber music has always been really, really important to me. When I went to Michigan, we, of course, have Michigan chamber players, unpaid volunteer concerts. And so once I had a manager, Mary Ann Cellino, she put one and one and one together in her head. And she said, I have Joao, they call him that guy. His name is Joao Luis. He teaches at Queens College, Brooklyn, like Manus, everything. And he's in the Brazil guitar duo. And all guitarists call him that guy because he is that guy. He can play anything, right? So Marianne thought, okay, well, I have the Brazil guitar duo and I have Harlem String Quartet with Juan Miguel Hernandez. And she put a, like a 3-way call together. We all chatted because Joao, the guitarist, is also a composer. So he started writing for us. Sergio Assad wrote for us. He had something in the can. He just whipped out for us. Fred Hand wrote for us. And so Marianne put together Trio Virato. We named ourselves because Virato means upside down. So our little logo is kind of like that. So it was really Marianne Cellino's brainchild. And once people heard about 3 very different people coming together, they started hiring us. So we have See You St. Louis in February. Very excited. We have a tour in St. Louis. We've done lots of concerts. For instance, we did, I know you all have heard Tanglewood. But if you think Tanglewood is too crowded and you want your own chamber music series, you go to something called Tannery Pond. And it's just up the road in the Berkshires. And Tannery Pond takes place in a barn. And there's a balcony. And you guys, I walked out on stage, I took a bow, I sat down, and there's James Taylor. Because James Taylor is a guitarist, right? And he's looking at that guy, and I know he's got no interest, he's just staring at Joao. But that was such a great mindset for me to go, No, James Taylor is not staring down at me. But don't you know, I did not miss a note. I was really focused that day. So for me, this trio is just so much fun, and people are coming out for it. They're loving it. Do you know what we did? We did some musical offering. We did Bach musical offering, and Joao tuned down all of his keys, and played it transposed, and then it's incredible. And then he's asked me, "Can we not do that again?" It's really hard. We've done Scaramouche, Mio. We've done 2 movements of the history of the tango, which are stunning, and they're on YouTube. So this trio is just so dear to my heart. We can't do it all the time because Juan Miguel got a job in London at the Royal Academy teaching viola, so he's over there. But it's just the 3 of us. We love it.
You have a question?
Yeah, we have a question from Facebook.
Great. Hi, Facebook.
Yay. So the question is, who inspires you as a musician? So which musicians?
The singers. And Yo-Yo Ma. Yeah. Any singer and Yo-Yo Ma. My mother always told me you could do this or you could be Yo-Yo Ma, right? So when I finally met Yo-Yo Ma and he was the nicest human in the world, I decided that was who I could look up to. And now, don't you love it that he did, remember the Bobby McFerrin thing he did? Mm-hmm. And then now he's doing Silk Road, and my friend Joe Gramley plays with him and just says he still is the nicest human, and he's the consummate musician and the consummate humanitarian. So I look up to Yo-Yo Ma, and I think singers, when, for instance, when you're watching a Joyce Donato masterclass and she says, "Open your mouth," you're like, well, yeah. The singers have it all right. Yeah. We need to open, and we need to, can I just say to everybody in the world, this is an instrument of physics. This is not the barometer of your goodness. You put air under open holes and closed holes. So it doesn't mean that you're a bad flutist because something is going wrong, or a bad person. And I think that's the biggest thing in my teaching that I hit home in my students is, don't take this personally. This you can totally do. It's closed hole, open hole, closed hole. Get it down here. Mm-hmm. So I think singers really send that message by the resonance of the skull, the face and the muscles. And so I believe we are singers with something in the way. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
A question for someone like myself who used to play many years ago, and I'm picking it back up.
Yay! The flute's calling you from the closet.
So what do you recommend as far as any videos or books or anything to
try
to pick back up?
It's called The ABCs of Flute for the Absolute Beginner.
Okay.
Now, you're not the absolute beginner, but it's with me. And when Carl Fisher asked me to write the script, I said no 5 times because I don't teach beginners. But so I had to actually go all the way back and think, what is this? Right? And Taffanel used to say tone comes from here. So I had to think, how am I going to explain this to a beginner? Tone comes from here. They're going to say, no, it doesn't. So I actually, that DVD, it's $19.95 on Amazon. It probably is $14.95 now. I don't know. But it's a DVD that I made that I think really takes it back to the beginning. So if you'd like to try that, I would definitely check out my ABCs. It's never too late it's never too early to introduce De La Sonorité to a student. And so revisit the De La Sonorité. It's your sound Bible. I don't think that holding a long tone creates a false sense of security at all. I think if you just hold a note, find your, especially on a flute you just bought, that flute's going to be about 1.5 years away from its maturation with you in your heart. And so when you're having fun with it for the next year, just hold long notes, and then you'll know where that note is every time you come to it. It won't be searching. So I'd say the long tones and the DVD, or just call me on the phone.
Yeah.
Let me help you out. I love bringing people back to the flute. That's one of my fortes, I think.
All right.
Adults.
Another question? Oh.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How as you've taught over the years, how has the flute student evolved in terms of, folks that you taught, say, in the 80s? I mean, what is today, how is today's, say, I guess, college level or whatever level, you teach, even beyond college, how do they differ today than the person, say, that you taught in the 80s? Does that make sense?
Yes, of course, yes. Well, first of all, the student is relegated, or they think they're relegated, to Spotify and YouTube. It's really sad. So back 25 years ago, I can honestly say when we didn't have internet, it was a wonderful process of research for the student. And they had to go to libraries, and they had to read books, and they had to ask questions, and they had to, they couldn't just get the answer right away. So now with the touch of a button, everything happens in a nanosecond. And I say this on my Anatomy of Sound DVD. A lot of the students ask, why can't I get it now? And that's an issue. That's the shift that happened. Hang on, I can't push it, it won't come out. How come? Well, it's an instrument of physics. And perhaps, they can't just say, oh, this attached to the flute will change my sound. Oh, this roller will help my right hand. Oh, this head, I actually just think that if people could just step back from instant gratification and like I told you, just spend some wonderful time for about a year and a half. 16 months is short. Yeah. Life is short. And you can really fill up that time finding out and not being so stressed out that you can't get it right away. So students right now, I have to bring them down to understanding that when they're with me, we get to incubate. And once they get out, they will have answers. I only know this because they've told me after they won the job, they called and they said, I trusted everything my teachers told me when I walked in the door. And then you forget it. So I'd encourage you all out there to not just be satisfied with the touch of a button and not just to be satisfied with Spotify and YouTube. You'll drive me batty. I really think it's important to go to concerts, to listen to concerts, to transcribe other instruments pieces, and not just live in our silos. So I think that's the biggest difference, is that the internet has it's brought us to a greater place, and it's dumbed down a lot as well.
One more question? Okay.
Another question from Facebook. Where do you see yourself as a musician, as a human, in the next 20 years, 30
I'm
years?
going to be styling everybody. I'm going to be giving you all kinds of tricks for how to just be happy, because I think when somebody gives me some great advice, I can't wait to share it. And I've just been given so much great advice because I was born with a musical silver spoon in my mouth, but what life has given me in terms of challenges has been pretty great. And to be able to come out on the other side of challenges, I just if I'm going to play this my whole life until I don't sound very good, and then Emily's going to say, Professor Porter, maybe you should not play anymore, and then I'll just go on, tell people, my opinion about anything. I just love to share, but the biggest reason Facebook is because I was given the advice, I was given gifts, and so I'm totally going to pay it forward. And I think that's the biggest thing about my teaching right now, is I'm paying it more forward than ever, giving back. So that's kind of like the double-edged sword of the sword for the Spotify and the YouTube argument, right? Mm-hmm. Because I should be giving it away, and yet what we're doing is incredibly priceless. Yeah. So it's a transition we're going through these days, people. It really is. So is that it?
That is all. Yes. Thank you so much again for coming. It's been a joy.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.